Let's get it right. 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 Let's get it right.
You already know what it is, man. It's your boy Dealatofficial. And this is No Filters. Always appreciate you hitting that like button for me. Subscribing to the channel so you don't miss an episode and sharing this with the world. And of course, family, when you come in, get comfortable. Get you something to eat. Get you something to drink. Get you something to smoke if that's what you do. Because you see the title, fam. Woo. Let's get into this here.
People were engaged by beings that had more advanced knowledge that claimed to be not from this world according to the text in their books. They say, we are not from this world. Aliens. These people potentially were significantly more intelligent and much smarter. Most likely had huge pineal glands. We're talking about evidence of beings that are non-native. In other words, they're not of this world. All right? They're not of this world. There's something else. All right, what's up? Billy Carson here, aka Forbidden Knowledge. That is my new docu-series, Anunnaki Ancient Secrets Revealed, and it actually is fully out. The full season can be watched right now on the Forbidden Knowledge TV app. Shout out to everybody in the live chat, filling up the chat today. I'm just popping in for you guys on another pop-up podcast, and we're going to talk about elongated skulls of the Anunnaki. Okay, we're going to talk about the difference between skull binding and a naturally formed elongated skull. We'll talk about cranial mass, and we'll talk about the reduction of cranial mass with this method. And when I get done, hopefully you'll see there is a difference between cranial deformation and a true elongated skull with more brain capacity. All right. So make sure you guys click the like button and make sure you share the video so we can get this algorithm going, all right? A lot of great people already filling up in the live chat. T Funny's in the house, James, Josh, Four Souls, JJ, Emmett Lunch, who else we got here? Reekin Strong, Pavoli Snow, Purple, Divine 3. All right, appreciate y'all, all right? So let's click the like button. Let's share the video. Let's get the algorithm going. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this video to get out there to more people so they can see it, hear it, understand it, discern it, and possibly then begin to research it. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about these elongated skulls. And it's one of the biggest topics to me that's really been overlooked. It's kind of been swept under the rug. I think that mainstream archaeology has stamped on it, their debunking method of just stating that these are just deformation skulls or deformed skulls, in other words. And we'll show you some images here shortly that when kids were born to these particular royal bloodlines of rulers over different villages and cultures, that they honored the gods by binding the skull to give them a elongated shaped skull, which they were doing actually in honor of the gods and also declaring their lineage to those gods. So when we get into this tonight, I should say, I think you'll begin to see it's nothing but a giant cargo cult. Okay? Nothing but a giant cargo cult. And we'll talk about what a cargo cult is as well. Okay? So let me pull up something here real quick, because I want to also make sure you guys have the link to the Anunnaki TV series, which you can watch on the Forbidden Knowledge TV app. It's actually trending as one of the top shows right now on Forbidden Knowledge TV. It's actually in number 2. It was hung on to number 1 spot for quite a while. It flickers between number 1 and number 2 on the trending on the Forbidden Knowledge TV app. Let me come back in here and drop you guys the link to Anunnaki, okay? Anunnaki, Ancient Secrets. And just drop this here in the live chat for you guys. So you can go and watch it, check it out. Go binge watch it, all right? I'm dropping the link now. Boom. Okay, so here goes the link. I'm driving into the live chat. You can watch the entire series right here. All right. Thank y'all for all the great comments, by the way, in the live chat. I appreciate all y'all. Love you guys. You guys are the best leaders that exist. I don't have followers. I have leaders. And I appreciate every single one of y'all, even if I can't get to you or give you the shout out every single time. But I just definitely appreciate y'all. Make sure that you go get that Forbidden Knowledge, that Forbidden Knowledge from the number 4 TV app on Apple, iOS App Store, Apple TV, Google Play, Roku, Samsung, LG TV, Android TV. Again, X has been getting attacked like crazy recently, getting pinged down, DOS attacks, which has been reducing the amount of engagement on X. Deformed skull, or these deformed skulls.
Okay, hit that like button, double tap that screen. You in here with your boy Dilla T. Don't forget what's going on. You know this C is no filters. You hear me? Hit that like button, double tap that screen. Become a member today. We're here to save your life. Bang! Don't forget. Raffle. One woman, one man. Tomorrow night, May 29th. We'll win a No Filters Classic t-shirt signed by your boy Dilla T, sponsored by Nene Love Savvy TV in the building as always. Let me tell you something what's going on right now. We about to discuss about the Anunnaki people. And these people right here, this is what's crazy about these people right here, man. These people right here had bodies like us, but certain things about their bodies wasn't the same like ours. As you can see in this picture above my head. Look at the shape of the skull of this person's head, man. And then it almost make you think, is that just a regular person? So we really about to look into these people right here and see what level they coming from, because this guy here, Billy Graham, is speaking about these people, how they've been around and how they still are around and where they came from. Now, let's see about this distraction. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. We about to cook.
Okay. You're looking at right here a tribe woman who you can see not only is her skull elongated, but also she's got bandages on the skull of her baby. Now, they do this from birth because obviously from birth, the parietal plates are softer, the skull bone is softer, and so they're able to direct the skull into this cone shape by binding the skull. I got to imagine in some way, in some fashion, that definitely has to create headaches and pain and suffering. But this is what's been done, okay? This is what's been done, and this is called skull binding. This is deformation of the actual skull to get it to look like this cone shape. I want you to pay attention to something about the shape of this skull. You'll notice that it goes into a point in the back. In other words, it's coning almost like an egg shape, okay? It's very important for you to notice the shape of this deformed skull, or these deformed skulls. These are several different people, okay? Pay attention to that, because it's very, very important to recognize that by doing skull deformation, you reduce the cranial capacity. You don't increase it, you reduce it, okay? By skull binding, you reduce, not expand, you reduce the cranial capacity. Well known and well documented, okay? So why would they do something like this? Why would they do something like this? Well, if you remember some of the podcasts and shows that I've done and TV series that I've been on talking about cargo cults, right? Cargo cults. What's a cargo cult? Well, I'll give you an example of one. I talked about this in Anunnaki, Ancient Secrets Revealed. So make sure you guys go and watch the TV series or the docu-series on my TV network. I dropped the link in the chat a little bit earlier, okay? I'll drop it in the live chat one more time. Well, let's go back to the atolls, the islands in the South Pacific. Well, around the time that the U.S. was working on developing and testing the nuclear bomb, they decided to go on down to the atolls where they had some indigenous tribes living on those little tiny islands. And they said, you know, we'd like to blow up a nuke out here and test it out. So we're going to come to this island and we're going to find these people who had never seen outsiders before. We're going to give them some trinkets and give them some food and some clothing. And then we're going to let them know that we have to relocate them because we're about to blow up this whole place. Nuke. It might be dangerous. So the Americans show up down in the South Pacific and they show up in airplanes, right? Seaplanes, and they land and they hop in boats and they come ashore. And the tribesmen are just like mind blown because, first of all, they have never had any outside contact with any other people. They're still living in pretty much closest to ancient times as you can think of, right? They may have had some advancements over time, but not many. And all of a sudden, an airplane, which can be to them a UFO, and then these ships that come ashore with powered motors, they've never seen that before, made of steel. And then they've got this cargo that they offload onto the beach. And this cargo, they open it, and inside these containers are all sorts of trinkets that they've never seen before that appear to be magical. Lighters, right? Cans of Spam, actual cans of Spam, which was a huge trading thing that they gave them. They gave them Spam. Clothing and other trinkets and gadgets, right? Camping gadgets and so forth. And, walkie-talkies and so forth. Just blew their mind. These people were so blown away by what they witnessed and what they had partook in with the Americans that they actually began to tattoo USA on their chest. They tattooed USA on their chest. This is after the Americans left. They revered them as gods because and according to them, they had godlike technology. They didn't believe it was, man-made. They thought it was all spiritual. They believed these people were gods. And so in order to get these gods to come back, they did several things. They tattooed USA across the chest. They took reeds and sticks and made them to look like rifles and guns, automatic weapons. They organized themselves like troops and would march through their territory. They also cleared out what looked like a runway, all right? And then they built an actual airplane, a replica of what they saw land and come up to in the water with the pontoons on it. They built one of those at the edge of the runway out of sticks, reeds, and whatever else they could find on the island. They made a replica of one of the seaplanes. And they would line up and sit down along the runway, staring up at the sky for hours every day, praying for the sky gods to return with more cans of Spam. That's called a cargo cult. Because why? Because we gave them cargo and they became a cult after us, thinking and revering us as gods. Simply because we had more knowledge and we had technology. This is exactly what happened in the ancient past. This is my theory, my hypothesis, whatever you want to call it, based on research and physical evidence that's all around the planet. These people were revered as gods, and they revered them as gods simply because they couldn't understand the knowledge and the technology. The same thing happened in the ancient past, which is when these beings called the Anunna, or, of course, the Anunnaki, they have several names all around the world. They came and engaged mankind at some point in the ancient past. I personally believe that some of them had these elongated skulls, and I'll show you why shortly and tell you why, based on actual physical evidence. And again, when these beings left, at some point we know for a fact they left. They always said they will be back at some point in the future. The people that were closely, I guess, highly regarded by them, that allowed them, that maybe worked along with them to help rule over the masses of people, like pharaohs, kings, queens, leaders of the village, or whatever, they decided to start skull binding to basically attribute themselves or link or align themselves with that what they call a holy bloodline. So the skull binding or the defamation ritual was not allowed to be done by everyone in the village or in the tribe. That was forbidden. It was only allowed by the higher ups, the leaders, right? The king, the queen, the village leaders, whatever names they had for them. They were the only ones allowed to perform this ritual because they were the only ones, according to them, directly connected to the gods. Okay? And that's why they did this to their skulls. I'll show you the photo again real quick. This is a ritual done to honor the gods and to establish themselves as leaders or high elite in their village or their clan or their tribe. And I'm saying many different versions of that because this occurred all over the world. That's another part they forget to tell you. How in the world can people around the planet start doing the same exact thing all around the same time? It's just happenstance, just coincidence? No, it's not a coincidence. They're doing it simply because they witnessed and were engaged by beings that had skulls that were huge. And they wanted to align themselves with them. Maybe they were even taught or told to do this so that when we return, we'll know your bloodline. These Anunnaki beings, sometimes they were good, but sometimes they were just downright sadistic people, man. They would give these people all kind of things to do that were just asinine. And the people would do them because, they don't know any better. We didn't know any better, So let's dig into it a little bit. Let's go into some of the actual archaeological reports on the difference between a human skull and some of these elongated skulls, okay? I think that's important for you to understand. Let's first start by talking about Paraka's skull number 44, okay? Paraka's skull number 44, I'm going to pull it up here. It's one of my first posts on Instagram. If you go back, if you have the ability to scroll all the way back to the very first post I made on Instagram in 2011, December of 2011, I believe it was, it's going to be this image right here. Okay? You're going to see this skull.
Now, who look cone-headed is this? Some of y'all cousins look like this right here for real. You don't even know who this is, man. Now, let's give it a minute, let that soak in. Because who? Let's give it a minute, because for real, this is bonehead. Like, this is skull. This is conehead at its finest. Now, I think so uncommon. It possibly could be. But wait a minute. I know if you know who your fam is. Because what? That's a true skull. That ain't no made up. That ain't made up. That's a skull. Yeah. That's somebody's cousin. That's somebody. Oh man, this is real, man. Hold up, hit that like button, double tap that screen right now. Boy, what? Let's go.
This skull is cataloged. It's a well-documented, elongated skull, and if you notice, it doesn't look anything like the skull from the deformation ritual that I showed you earlier with those 3 different women and the baby. Okay. This Paraka skull is called skull number 44. Was discovered in Paracas region, and this elongated skull is missing a sagittal suture. Okay, it's missing the sagittal suture. Now, what is that? The sagittal suture is where the skull comes together, almost like, we're such fractals. We're fractals of the earth. The earth itself has tectonic plates that come together, right? And the human skull has these sutures that come together, these parietal plates that come together. But that skull I just showed you, if you look at a normal human skull, doesn't have it. So let me pull one up here. All right. Now.
Oh no. Okay, so this, I would say this. I remember this movie I seen where they what is this? Was that King Kong? Was that Kong versus Godzilla? Okay, so Kong versus Godzilla. Like I think it's like I think it's like Zilla. I think it was like Kong versus Zilla. Okay, cool. Okay, now listen. In that movie, it's a tribe that was like underwater. They had to go underwater to get to these people, and they had their own little world. If you've seen it, press 1. They had their own little world. Now, the only reason I really feel like I believe this situation more so, even the more, is because it's so much land and so many people and like tribes. Because you got to understand, all of the earth was like just grass, trees, and land, water, okay, or rocks, or you know what I'm saying. So not everybody has a house, or not everybody still believes in a house, a street, jobs, start living like we live in. People still living in these tribes and in these areas where they could be of this descent. And that's crazy too, because I'm gonna tell you something. If this is me and if this is Chris, I know I take the pineal gland. That means you extra smart. If your pineal gland is up, I take it, fam. You hear me? But I know whoever little shoebox top head this is better start breathing and start ducking when you're walking in buildings. Because if you don't, you liable to get stuck in. Hit that duck. You better hit it.
These are 2 skulls. This is kind of heavy. And both of these skulls have the parietal plates, because some of these Paraka skulls had incredible brain mass, but they also in some way seem to be hybrids and had the sagittal sutures. They had it. They had the plates. Look at the human skull right here, and you can see.
And let me tell you something else. Think about this. Let's be real all the way 1,000 right now. It was a movie they came out with cone heads. Why would they come out with the movie? Who would just come up with cone heads? Oh, this is diabolical. If you ever seen Coneheads, press 1. If you never seen Coneheads, write it down, go watch it. It's a comedy. Trip off that, man. Ain't no way, fam. Why would they even be thinking like that? And then what else is funny is in that movie, Coneheads was like, they were supposed to be like aliens, like UFO. Their whole situation was put like that. Oh man, let's put it together. See, hit that like button, double tap that screen. Let me tell you about it. See, this is why distractions need to be discussed, not put away, not ignored. Hold up, we need to see what that is, because whatever that is, we need to find out what that is. And right now, we finding out through this that back then, this over 20 years ago, when Coneheads came out, fam. What year was that? Somebody tell me right now. What year was that? Coneheads came out what year? Because man, that's hella ago. I'm talking about how. When I say how, Geeky said it's not just that keeping their body in a natural state of stress, which is but to be powers to be due, which is but the powers to be due. They keep you in this fear cycle. That's what we talked about yesterday. Go back if you go look at the episode. We speak about fear, about feelings, fear, about how that feeling takes over you, how that feeling takes over the logic mind, how they install feelings and then they start to install type of feelings. First of all, feelings have to be installed. Charisma, care has to be installed in the body just to even get a feeling. Queen Q Chaos in the building. Even in that case, for a feeling to be anything, it has to have a house or a host of place. So for all of us to have charisma in our bodies, that's the place where feelings even come, because we start to care. Whether we care about smiling, care about laughing, care about crying, care about whatever, it's the fact charisma. So the point I'm making is, fam, feelings is being installed, and then the fact that the spirit of fear being installed, that's how they're gonna keep you. That's the point. But what I'm saying is, why would they make a movie about Coneheads if it wasn't important? If it didn't matter, why would they make that movie? They could have made square heads. They could have made triangle heads. They could have made every head but a cone head that resembles this. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. Open up your ears. You better learn something right now.
The sagittals here, the sutras, you can see the parietal plates. This large skull, this Paraka skull, you can see it as well. This is one of my collections here. Okay. Now, the difference between the skull you see here in my hand, in my own hand that I'm holding, and the one you saw in the image is that, number one, the skull mass is far more significant. It's bulbous. You can't get this kind of mass from binding a skull. Okay? We're talking about much more capacity to hold more brain, which means these people potentially were significantly more intelligent and much smarter. Most likely had huge pineal glands. Huge. Look at the jaw structure. The jaw structure compared to the human jaw is significantly more pronounced. The eye sockets are deeper. Okay? It's humanoid-ish, but definitely not human. Okay? Now, the one that I just showed you, let me put this down before I drop it. Things heavy. Hold on. Okay. All right. So the one that I The one that I showed you earlier, number 44, doesn't even have the sutures. It's missing. Now let me tell you. Let's read what happened with this skull. It lacks the typical two parietal bones, instead exhibiting one single. It has one single large parietal plate. Features, basically, it differs significantly from a human skull. It has an elongated shape that some believe is not solely the result of artificial cranial deformation. DNA analysis, yes, they've tested it. Okay. The test suggests that the mitochondrial DNA, the mtDNA, has mutations not found in known human, primate, or Neanderthal genomes. Let me read that again. The mitochondrial DNA, the mtDNA, has mutations not found in known human, primate, or Neanderthal genomes. Initial reports claim the skull's lineage might have originated from a non-native population. That's their way of saying alien. That's their way of saying not from Earth. They call it a non-native population. Okay? They say it's a non-native population. I'm telling you.
Is it me, man?
These skulls, and they've now found hundreds of these skulls all over the world. They're not just in Peru. They're in Africa. They're in Europe. They're in Australia. They're everywhere. These beings, these people, were all over the planet at one time.
I wish everybody right now could just. I wish everybody could just. Take a picture. No, that ain't me. No, everybody just. I wish everybody just. Everybody just slowly just. And then take your pic, and let's see if you're a part of the Anunnaki, or see if you with us. I won't fell out them. We want to know if you're a part of them, fam, or if you with us. Who you with, fam? Who you with? No, slowly break it down and then. You know what I'm saying? And then just take the picture and come back and show your light. Is you a part of them or not, fam? Yeah, fam. Ooh, this is crazy. The like button double tap that screen. When you do this, let me know when you did it, fam.
With these huge brains, massive brains.
Huge brain head.
Let's take a look at another incredible skull. I want to show you the Chongos skull. The Chongos skull, which I talked about on Twitter a few weeks ago and it went viral. Okay? Let me pull up the image of the Chongos for you. This skull is mad. You thought this skull I had over here was huge. Where do you see this one? This skull is massive. Now you see how it expands toward the back? Skull binding reduces toward the back. It doesn't expand. Let's read what the science article has to say about the Chongos skull. Okay. Here we go. Pulling it up now. Tolichenga Sofla is located about 30 miles south of the town of Benahan, on the easternmost fringes of Kazakhstan province. This site was first discovered in 1970 by Hans Nissen and his colleagues from the Oriental Institute of the University of Chicago. Okay, so they say that one of several archaeologists named Abbas Moghadam leading the excavation, in his report titled Tolichenga Sofla Cemetery, a phenomenon in the context of the late 5th millennium southwest Iran, stated that these natural elongated skulls feature a much larger jawbone and eye sockets that are up to 50% larger than a normal human skull.
50%.
And he says that These are also missing the sagittal suture with fibrous connective tissue joints between the two parietal plates that run down the center back of our skulls. Many of these elongated skulls and cranial volumes up to 25% larger than conventional human skulls.
Wow.
Okay? 25% larger. That's the Chongo skull. So what they're telling us is, straight up, these are real archaeologists and real mainstream scientists, that skull I just showed you with that 25% more cranial capacity, they said it's not skull deformation, and how they said it wasn't was because they said it's natural. In other words, the person grew like that naturally without deformation, without skull binding. Okay, mainstream. This should be on every news station all around the world right now. Every TV station, instead of showing what's going on with Trump and Elon Musk and Biden and Kamala and all these people, instead of showing all this other craziness going on, they should be showing us this. This is more important to me than anything else going on right now. And I've been talking about this for over a decade, and it's still never really caught on. People haven't really seen. They keep saying, well, where are they? Well, they're right here. Let's read a little bit more about this. The Chongo skull. A few skulls, such as the Chongo skull in the Inca Museum, has approximately 50% more cranial mass. Here's the key. Cranial deformation can certainly change the shape of the skull, but it cannot add more cranial mass or volume to a skull. Some of these elongated skulls found at Tola Changa Sofla also appear to be natural elongated skulls as well. And you can go to the museum and you can see it for yourself. Because why? Because it is, it's in a museum. It's an actual artifact. Well documented by mainstream, okay? Well documented. 50%. Can you imagine having a skull 50% larger? Can you imagine having a skull 50% larger, a brain mass? Imagine making your brain double the size it is right now.
Double head.
I mean, even if we're only using a percentage of our brain right now, double that, and you'll be smarter automatically. Your intelligence will rise significantly. Imagine your ability for things like psychic abilities, telekinesis, higher levels of empathy, right? All these things, all these what we call supernatural abilities, all become just standard everyday things because we have access to more brain mass.
Cause listen, on everything I love, when fam was like, listen, that's probably you and Chris here. I was like, yeah, I just take Fernando Glenn. Cause I'm like, cause now I'm super smart. I'm like, I'm superhero smart, fam. At this point, fam, and I'm talking about, oh, you ain't using your whole brain. You got to use your mind, use your brain. Boy, I got so much brain to use. I can use my brain for your brain. I can think for you, fam. You know what I'm saying? I can like for real, what we need, like for real, like let me see some. You know what I'm saying? Like what we gotta do with this, man? Because you know what I'm saying? Because matter of fact, everybody just lean on me. Everybody just touch me and let me just brainstorm. let me brainstorm on it. Let me have that and let me brainstorm. Boy, I'm about to light some shit up. Because if somebody cranium could brainstorm on you, fam, oh man, it's over. Go sit down somewhere. Oh man, go sit. For real, it's terrible. Listen, forgive me. I'm just saying, I just can't believe this because this is real. Like, for real. Like, this is real. This ain't no lie. I mean, I'm no, for real. I can say this because this is real, fam. You know what I'm saying? Like, because if I could think for all, you know what I'm saying? Like, Mega Mind, you see that cartoon, Mega Mind? That's him. Now, why they come up with Mega Mind? What about the cartoon Mega Mind? Well, let me brainstorm for a minute. I make the whole world go to boy. You hear me? Big, huh? Oh man.
And I'll be doing a video very soon on the fact that scientists discovered that psychic abilities and telekinesis and all these things are pretty much standard hardwired into the brain. We just forgot how to access it. That'll be a video I have coming up very soon. But that skull is massive, and the genetic testing say they didn't say non-human, but they very carefully label it as non-native. Okay, non-native. That's what they say. Let's see, we have another one here.
Keep striving. 913 says it just shows that this isn't a conversation. It's just self. All I'm saying is, where is the source for any of this? Wanting to believe and having verifiable information aren't the same. Okay, so you had no filter. Hold on, let's get you right. Right now, you in here with your boy Dealatofficial, my fam. And this is No Filters. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode, and share this with the world. And of course, family, when you come in, get comfortable. Make sure you get you something to eat, something to drink, something to smoke if that's what you do. Because you see the title, fam. Yeah. Keep striving. That's what's going on, fam. Yeah, see, this is No Filters. See, this is the React Pod here to save your life. See, we're reacting to situations and distractions and issues in the world that allows us to have our own opinion to share with the world. And of course, family, when you come in, watch your mouth. Best thing for you to do is say, hey, well, this is not a real factual thing. This is just you saying or giving opinion. Well, no, because see, Billy Carson here is giving out facts because he's going by doctrine being read. He's actually read the doctrine to show the evidence of what he's showing. So if you think about it, keep striving. You sound pretty stupid at this point because this man is showing you evidence and all the above. Now, if you say what is his source, you can look up his source. And there's also some sources when you look into the when you actually look into the description box, we'll have them there for you. So let's get you together, family. Let's watch your mouth when you're coming in. Let's make sure we respect everybody, respect my house, respect my people, respect fam. Because at the end of the day, what he's doing, he's giving you source, he's giving you information, and then he's giving you doctrine that he's reading his literature from, and then he's giving you pictures. So whether we believe this or not, here it is. I'm putting it here for you to make a decision on how you want to live your life, believe it or not. But I just want you to know, clearly it exists. And that's what the situation is. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. We ain't coming up. We going. Let's do it.
The Paracas necropolis skull, found in Paracas necropolis, a burial site with over 300 elong of some being or someone with a big skull showing up. That was just probably a birth defect. 300 were discovered in one burial site in one location. The absence of the sagittal suture. So again, it's missing.
Respectfully, I don't want to make you feel like I'm being disrespectful either. I just want you to understand, because some of the things you were saying and the way you were saying it in was just kind of going left field. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. Let's keep going.
Non-human. Cranial volume 25 times larger than a human skull. A single parietal plate with unusual bone density. Okay? It's just incredible. And again, we're talking about evidence of beings that are non-native.
Non-native.
In other words, they're not of this world. All right? They're not of this world. They're something else. And I mean, I could just keep it going on. You know, we have the Star Child skull, which became extremely famous at one point. The skull has genetic sequences unknown to the human genome. Again, more DNA.
Hold on, fam. And then you was calling me a cheerleader or something? That's what you was doing? See, now, hold up. Keep striving. Hold up, Dirty. If you was being disrespectful, stand on that. Was you calling me a cheerleader or something? Because I see a love within had to check you or something. Talking about talking about a grown man. She said a grown man talking about somebody cheering is weird, like a ducky. That's what you was on. Keep striving. Keep striving. That's what you was on, Dirty. Tiny Rob's in the building. You already know what it is, fam. I ain't seen you. Good to see you. I just trying to know that if that's what you was on, fam. Because if that's what you was on, fam, you can't take that back and be like, I wasn't being disrespectful. No, you can't say that because that's disrespectful. If you calling me anything that's cheer and lead, anything that say cheer and leader together, that's disrespectful, fam. So I'm just trying to see, like, would you call me a cheerleader? Did you refer to me as a cheerleader?
Test was done by several different sources. Genetic sequences unknown to the human genome. Again, that's a fancy way of saying not human. And if you're not human, then you're something else. But again, more brain mass, more cranial mass. So, if you ever had a question about whether these beings existed, if you ever had a question whether or not, you could tell by the jaws, the size of the jawbone from the one I held up, that this being had to be huge. And it couldn't be, I'm 6'4". This guy had to be at least 8 to 10 feet tall, at least, just based on the size of the jawbone and the skull. If you want to make an anatomically correct version of a person out of it, it's going to be very huge and very strong as well. Extremely strong. Very, very strong. So, and these skulls have also been found in Africa. Let's take a look at what the ancient Egyptians left behind.
Now we're talking about Egyptians.
This is Pharaoh Akhenaten's daughter.
Now, who daughter is that? Who cousin is that? Who fam is that, fam? Look at the ears on fam, G. Hold up, Richard. Is this Richard? Hold up, Richard. Yeah, who fam is this, Lord? Cause look at fam head. This is different. So if you could take the time and just look at the head right quick, you can actually see that this person actually existed. Because who can just create that? So somebody just thought about this cartoon character and just made this? This came from somewhere. That's the point we're talking about when we talk about existence. When we talking about time, when we talking about bloodlines, things of that nature. You understand what I'm saying? Hit that like button, double tap that screen. This man is showing you evidence. He's giving you pictures, and then we're looking into the Egyptians that talks about who this is.
Mekheteten, right? This is his daughter. That's the skull. That's inside the actual museum. That's not the actual skull. I'm sorry. That's the bust. That's the replication bust that they made. In other words, this is original work, but the artist from thousands of years ago, I guess he had her sit down and he made this image of her. So it is ancient. It is in the museum. But this is the depiction of the skull. Look at the bulbous area in the back of the skull. Do you see how huge that is? This is the pharaoh's daughter. One of his daughters, actually, just one of them. All of his kids have these huge skulls. Okay? Here's Pharaoh Akhenaten. You can see by the headdresses that they wore that if you take these elongated skulls and put them inside these headdresses that they wore, they fit perfectly. Because most likely, this is what was underneath those hats, those crowns.
Okay, so let's be real quick. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. This is not necessarily about an alien body. This is not necessarily about any of the above of the term alien. This is about a different being that's not mankind. This is about the sense of knowing that this, what we talk about, existence, bloodline, and the times. Type that in there if you with me. Existence, bloodlines, and the times. I've been saying this since things have come out about the Nephilim. We're talking about how this started at a certain time, and this has been existing for a long time. And this has created a bloodline, because as you can see, all of these people here all have the same head. So the point I'm trying to get you to understand, fam, is that this has been a bloodline that existed, still exists, and this is our different times that we're living in. So the times that happened and the times that we're living in now are totally two different times. And now that we have to go back and see the people that was here before us and the times that they happened, you need to know that it's descendants and a bloodline of these people out here. And it's funny because they have the elongated heads, very significant heads. But if you look at their heads and then you look at the type of people, you would almost have to realize where are these people and where do they exist. And we're going to get into that shortly here. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. Existence, bloodlines, and the times.
Huge skulls. This Queen Nefertiti image you see on the lower right box, that's not AI, that's not a replica or some type of graphic art. That's what's in the museum. Queen Nefertiti's head. This artistic rendering of her head made out of stone. This is what they created for her. Why would they create this? Well, because that's how big her head was.
Let me say something right now. Keep Striving says narratives and patterns recognition is our greatest skill and our greatest downfall. We see correlation where none have before, but also where it doesn't exist. Okay, this is what's crazy. So if we just, so Geeky, because Geeky says, I agree with you, humans are storytellers. You know, when I heard people when I heard you talking, Keep Striving, and then you Geeky, it's like you all are talking about the human mankind, but you all are human and mankind. Hold up. Let's get on y'all ass right quick. Because it kills me every time when y'all talking, it's always you all talk as if you all are higher beings than who you talking to. It's always as if you always talk as if you're in a different level than what you are. Geeky, you a human. Keep Striving, you a human. And it's so funny that you all both say, well, wow, we use narratives and we story tell. But the funny part is if we didn't have a story to tell or nothing to read about, that's like saying we never had a past. So what would we read about? Because if it was up to you, Keep Striving, and if it was up to you, Geeky, you all know everything and we know nothing and we just trying to find out. And then actually we almost seem like we're incompetent when talking to you all, because everything that we read about or hear about, and even if it existed, you all make it seem like, oh, that is so beneath us. And you're nothing but mankind, just like me. You flesh, you blood blue until it hits the oxygen, which turns red. Watch it, G. Watch it, G. Don't do that. Because that almost makes it seem as if you know something we don't, but yet you still living and looking for truth as well. You still looking for something as well, but yet he's saying, I'm reflecting on my own nature, my friend. That's fine. Your nature and ours, but it's just the fact that you have to do it. Our nature is for us to know the past, to know the future. How would there never be a story to not know the narrative? That's the position of us even bringing Christ into the situation when we start to talking about reading the Bible and reading story by story, but then creating our own narrative. but yet nobody is saved, filled with the Holy Ghost, or yet have a spiritual eye open to read it and receive it as such. See, it's funny because a narrative, this is the point I'm trying to make to you about a narrative. We all are going to make our own narratives. Because, see, there's something in you that yearns truth. Follow me right quick. Keep striving. Let me learn all of you something. It's something enough that God has placed in all of us, that a place of worship, a place to yearn. All of us. That's why we all choose who we worship. We all choose how we worship. We all choose in the way we choose to either sit still, become enlightened with one, pray to Allah, Jesus Christ, the Most High. You have Islam. You have people that pray to Buddha. I mean, I can go down the list. The point I'm trying to make is, in all of us, there is in all of us that God has placed to worship, to follow, to worship, period. So the point I'm making in saying what I'm saying is, we are all painting our own picture of what the narratives are when we read into literature. Listen to me. We are all painting our own picture. Even after you read all the books you read, Geeky, even after you read everything you read, keep striving, you still come up with a narrative. Because each and every one of you all, every time you say something, Geeky, you say, I think, or I feel, or I believe, or I think this. We all continue to come up with narratives. The only truth that you can state is what our actions are, what we do. And telling me about me ain't nothing new. So that's why it kind of kills me when we talk about things. Geeky says, yes, but to act like all of these stories are false. They had a lot of historical documents in place that this historical, but things that they were currently living with. I understand that. Keep Striving says, yes, that's very true. We all paint narratives. The point through is to question your own conclusions and try to always weigh them against context and reality and verifiable claims. Right. But in the end of the day, that's the thing. That's what's going to get you doing that the rest of your life. You're going to be doing that until you finally surrender to truth. That's why I wanted to get to. Because as we continuously read the Hebrew versions, the Bibles, looking into historic things, looking into history, we're always going to find ourselves measuring each doctrine, measuring each story, measuring which story lines up, which one doesn't, which one was taken out the Bible, which one was never mentioned. Why wasn't it mentioned? Was it because of the truth, or was it because it was false? These are the things I'm trying to get you to understand about why you're going to watch your life pass you by, because we don't surrender the true living power of what's real and why we're here. And because of that, that's the biggest thing. And that's why the Broadway is bigger than the pathway. Because of these things right here that we also every day so effortlessly not look for truth, but we always come up with another story to read. Keep Striving says, that's fine with me. The search is my inner fire, friend is yours, God is yours. And the most beautiful part is I will never know it all. And I will constantly be learning. It is a gift in context. See, to me, Keep Striving, I hear you, but I think that's false. Because the fact that it's not beautiful that we will never know it, that's not beautiful. Because that means we have no direction and no foundation and we end up nowhere. That's what you just told me. And I'm glad you say that because we are here to learn. And because we're here to learn, it's people like you that we have to learn from even the more. Because when you state things and say it's a beautiful thing not to know, that's the worst thing you could ever say. That is not a direction I can give my kids. That's not a direction I can lead anybody with. Especially the fact of saying that that's like saying it's a beautiful thing just not to know. What's beautiful about not knowing? I can name a million things that is not beautiful about not knowing, especially if it has to do with my future and where I end up eternally. So I do welcome you for this conversation, my brother, because as you open up your mind and your truth, I respectfully disagree with that because as we have to find out what is really going on in the world for the kids of tomorrow, there is no way that it is a beautiful ride without knowing what's going on today. Nothing about that is beautiful. Matter of fact, everything about that is ugly, sickening, the worst. We have no place. What I read is that you said, let me tell you what you said, my friend. You said, that's fine with me. The search is my inner fire, friend, just as your God is yours. And the most beautiful part is I will never know it all. And I will constantly be learning. It's a gift in context. And I said, that's not a beautiful thing about I will never know it all. That's not beautiful. You know how you know the worst thing for a person to read everything in the world and still don't know shit. Let me say that again for the people in the back. The worst thing for a person is to read everything in the world and still don't know shit. The beauty in the discovery, I understand, my friend. The fact to discover, to find out, to want to go see, to experience, I understand. But the part I'm trying to get you to understand is there has to be a pathway to truth. Because there's a broad way to hell and lies. There has to be a pathway to truth. And I know that we would never know it all. Trust me, I agree with that. We would never know it all. But it has to be a pathway to wanting to find out truth. It has to be some things that says, hold up, that's true. Because even in the way of how we read every passage and read all these words, all of these stories, it's like a bunch of just words and blank pages if there's no power, if there's no redemption. Because you can read everything. You can see everything. Every time somebody has something to say, you can have an argument for everything. But yet you still don't stand on shit. That's what's going on with you all. You can actually read, and it's like you don't feel nothing. Because there's no power in that doctrine. There's no redemption in this doctrine. There's no blood in this doctrine. And you can almost feel it in your spirit, soul, body. You can almost feel it in your spirit that you're not even being fed. All you're doing is going around telling people what you know or what you read. But you don't know that. But see, because what's crazy is the point of being here has to matter about what we're going to end up at in the future. Let me say that again for the people in the back. The point of being here now has to matter about the future of where you end up eternally. And it almost kills me even the more because today is a battle of just information. It's just a fight of information. It's all about what you know that you don't know, or if you know more than this person know. That's what the battle sounds like today. Every time. That's all it is. Ain't nobody leading nobody nowhere. Ain't nobody guiding nobody nowhere. Ain't nobody showing nobody the way. Ain't nobody showing them the truth. Ain't nobody showing them the light. But everybody got something to say about something they think they read. And it's just so shocking to me. And this is going to be the downfall of mankind. None of you have nothing to stand on. Nothing. You believe a little something. You believe a little bit on this side, but you believe a little bit over there too. But you believe something that you got because of what you narrated in there. So you really don't stand on nothing solid. So don't come in here about what you read and what you know and what you think you know, because you don't know shit. All you read is what you believe because you read it. But you don't know because you wasn't there. So please stop. Even when we speak, see, that was my next conversation, Geeky, because I wanted to speak about them being different beings. And anything that was outside of mankind was fallen angels. Anything that was outside of mankind that came from Nephilim descent came from fallen angels. So it's a difference when it comes down to it. That really do mean we have to understand it. Hold on right quick, fam. Who is this in here? Hey, who is this little dude? What's your name? Richard? What you on, Dirty? Hey man, let me tell y'all something right now. Please don't come in here and threaten me no more. Don't threaten me. Don't threaten nobody in here. Watch your mouth. You come in my house. You hear me? Don't threaten me like that no more. For real. I almost forgot who we was real quick, real fast on what we on and what we talking about. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. Let's get back to it. So the point that I'm trying to make is that the point I'm trying to make is keep striving. Is that yes, we do have to understand it, but you have to give yourself an opportunity to do that. Because yet we can read everything, we can read, but there has to be a doctrine that is powerful that goes with the curriculum of spiritual warfare. See, you have to understand you have to set the field first. If we don't even believe in spiritual warfare, then the doctrine you're reading, you're not even going to accept or even believe. That is half the battle. That is half the battle in here. People don't know what to believe the field is first. Once you understand the field of what we're exist and what's going on here, then we will start to understand what we're reading and what we're receiving and what we're believing. Because you're going to read everything. You're going to read spiritual things, regular mortal things, things about history, things now. But the fact that it all works together, because we still have to know that in the beginning, what was created. I understand that. That's fine. Because I'm not against you saying that you find beauty in what you believe. See, I didn't say don't be not okay with what you're saying. Everybody has an opinion. I'm not against your opinion. I'm not against your opinion at all. That is your opinion. Respectfully, I get it. But I will say this. At some point, even though that's not a dispute, I just still want you to understand that at some point in all the time that we have, and no one knows the day or the time or the hour, that your life is gone. And all the time that you have that you don't even know you have. If you don't understand a curriculum of how you go about the information you receive, so that information can align with what you understand that this is spiritual warfare and not just physical warfare. Once you start to understand that, then you will start to receive the information differently. You will start to receive the information differently, because now you will start to receive information that aligns with spiritual warfare and how things began in the world and where they're at now. And then that will give you even more understanding to seek and find truth in understanding what life is and the spiritual realm and warfare that we are in. Because then when you get that information, that'll make you start to say, okay, now I see which way the world came, is in, and headed. And as we know that, you will start to see the Anunnaki people, Nephilim, reptilians, all of these things will start to align within itself, fam. Because even doing that, there is no way that we wouldn't even think that this couldn't even align if it couldn't. Because at the end of the day, it can only be done one way, and that's knowing power being in one name. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. We're going all the way tonight. Let's go.
We can't allow them to reach that state. That's going to destroy our story. So we'll influence them to make sure they don't reach that state. I truly believe that just like religion has mentioned, there's a great war in heaven.
Theo on the building.
I do believe that they actually walk amongst us. I truly do believe that they are walking amongst us right now, and you wouldn't be able to even tell you were standing next to one of them at this point. And you know, when I was in the remote viewing course with Major Ed Dames, me and him had extensive talks. We sat and talked for almost 13 hours straight one day.
Nice.
Yeah, incredible conversations. And he said that there's a base down in Antarctica, which I knew about because we have all the research facilities all around that area. But these beings are still down there, and they go and come as they please, and all the governments of the world know this, and there's nothing they can do to stop them.
Right.
So I believe that they're walking amongst us right now. Then I also believe there may be another group totally separate from the Atlantean Anunnakis that may be multidimensional or multi-universal. And what that means is, well, you know, universes, I believe that there's a multiverse and everything is really stacked on top of each other.
Sure.
And the only thing that stops you from accessing that other dimension or that other universe is a frequency.
Right.
So our atomic frequency is set to, our subatomic frequency is set to this third dimension in this universe. But what's to say a 4 million year old advanced civilization, okay, we're barely 100 years old in terms of technology.
Sure.
Forget about the 200,000 we've been here trying to use bones and stuff. So a 4 million year old advanced civilization now figured out, oh, we can phase shift our subatomic frequency and move into other dimensions or move into other universes. We can time travel. We can do all these crazy things. And, you know, there could be people, you know, breaking temporal laws and even engaging in our civilizations and engaging mankind, violating all different types of rules and laws that have been set, like Matt said, that have been set up, you know, and when you look at Star Trek, they have the same kind of laws and rules in place, even though that's science fiction. You know, they got it.
And let me say this: this Billy Carson, like I feel you, Theo. Like some of what Billy Carson be saying, I'm with it because I'll be like, okay, well, that's really that. And then he throw in his personal opinions. Or the war in the building. My dog ain't seen you in a minute. Good to see you, family. I truly appreciate you pulling up, family. You know I ain't never left. We still here, my dog. Thank you so much. Been a minute. So with Billy Carson, I don't really believe all that he says because again, he'll throw his own personal opinion in something that's like a true document. And then there is where that's where the ignorance start to come in because he'll just throw some in there like, you know, you can start walking on water tomorrow. Like what? So you got stuff like that where he'll throw that in there, you know, because you'll get so sucked into it, and then he'll throw some net in there. So it's different. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. Let's go, fam.
Well, it just makes a lot of sense, you know.
Right.
There's got to be these rules and these laws in place, not to tinker with these less advanced civilizations. You know, so but I believe there has been tinkering going on, possibly from two separate groups: a physical group in the third dimension, and maybe a multi-dimensional or multi-universal group that may be two totally separate.
Now, let me say this: why I believe in the multiverse, or why multi-universal, all of that, right? When they talk about CERN and the speed of light and traveling at the speed of light, and then they started traveling past the speed of light, meaning that they started to open up portals in front of their face because now they're traveling faster than the speed of light. So clearly, if you're traveling faster than the speed of light, that means that light is constantly, you're controlling the light, the width, and opening the light because you are ahead of the light. You can travel at the speed of light, light comes on, that's that. But if you can travel before light, that means that literally before light, you can get there and open light up. I'm here to learn you something. Think about it. If you travel before the speed of light to get to, clearly you ahead of light to where you can just open light up when light occurs. You can control when light is coming because you're ahead of it. So the fact that they can do that and understand how a portal can just open off of that alone, it was never not a way for other beings to be here. It was never not a way for another dimension to be in the dimension that we're in. It was never not a way to understand a realm. If we're talking about spirits, oh, it is realms. And if we're talking about spiritual warfare, oh, it is realms. But then they talk about movies. And then what else is funny, because Masonic Creed. Press 1 if you ever heard of the book Masonic Creed. Press 1 if you ever heard about the book Masonic Creed. I say that because as I listened to a lady read the doctrine from the Masonic Creed. Press 1 if you ever heard Masonic Creed. I need to know. Shout out to Theo. I overheard some passage, some literature, some passage from that doctrine, from that book. And it talked about us, the humans, needing to never know who we really are. And how that we all are one. And how that if we really knew who we really are, and that if we all knew that we are one and came together, the level of power that would commit amongst the earth would be on another level. Understanding who we are, the blood that we possessed in our bodies, Lord, thank you. That's why they had that song back in the day. We are one. No matter what they do, we are one. No matter what they knew it too, fam. We was young, but the OGs knew what it was because they was in the industry like, fam. They telling us some stuff. We know about some stuff, and we supposed to be going against us. But we really know what's really going on. They knew that we are one, literally. And it's diabolical work, because to know that we are, it's another level. Because at the end of the day, and who was that was singing that? We are one. Who is it? No matter what they say, we are one. Yeah. No matter what. Who is it? We are one. You know what I'm talking about? And that's the way it is. Yeah. So it's a real deal knowing realms and dimensions and multiverse. That tune is right on the money. Don't do that, fam. You know how I'm coming when I come with the melody, when I melodize and harmonize, and I'm telling you, my backup dancer, my first singer, I'm the number one. Let's do it.
Groups.
Right. Beautiful. Well said. I mean, I kind of want to just mention to Matt, I don't want to rabbit hole because we have about 30 minutes left and we have the important stuff to talk about, which is like where we're going. Do we want to mention, this, so many people talk about it. We've talked about it on shows. Billy's mentioned it. You guys talk about it. The reptilian consciousness. Now, is the reptilian consciousness what Billy just said, this out of our realm or out of our space-time, group beings, maybe an energy that, is like affecting this, people in this third dimensional vibration? I mean, just to mention it before we go on, what do you think?
You asking me, Jay?
Yeah, I'm asking you, Matt.
Well, the more that I've delved into that, it's a difficult topic. I think a lot of people, and this is just my opinion, actually.
Sure.
Anyone who believes what they want, that's fine. But when I've studied this and I've really looked into it,
Listen to him.
There's definitely the possibility that there are beings that could fall under that type of category that maybe are invisible, that we can't perceive. But I think when I think of that term, I really think of the primitive left brain. And I really think of this aspect where we are constantly conflicted with the aspect of having parts of us that are primitive.
Right.
I think that's why we have all these what are known as primitive urges or demiurges that we are constantly battling. Because I think because we're a combination of two completely different things, we have this we do have this mammal ape side of us that is like a blueprint of us. But then we also have this divine God stance that was...
The mammal ape side of us is him talking about flesh, him talking about sin, him talking about shame, him talking about the body, talking about lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, pride of life. That's what he's talking about, this mammal meat body. And then he's talking about, and then there's also the divine, the spiritual. And that's when he's talking about the blood of the lamb. That's when he's talking about the blood of Jesus down on the cross for your sins type stuff, for you to be able to sin and don't have to die. See, if you do the logic part of it, somebody dying for you to just do whatever you want to do and don't have to die for it, or don't have to give up or sacrifice like a lamb, chicken, chop your kids, none of that. See, back in that day, woo, you had to sacrifice something, partner. If you did something bad, oh yeah, dirty, you got to give up one of them kids, something, you got to give up an animal, you got to give up your shirt, something, you got to give up something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now it's like, okay, so somebody came and died so you can be playing games. So you can be out here bullshitting. Somebody came and died for you so you can be out here bullshitting. And then, yeah. So that's what I mean, fam, about like him talking about like the spiritual part, and then like the demigod part, or like the mammal part about us. And I said, yeah, that's the part where Adam, Eve, that's that part, fam. That's what that's supposed to be. Because it was a time where they was naked and they was walking amongst the God in glory, not even seeing flesh, not even feeling. Let me tell you something again. Let's go back to feelings. This goes back to yesterday's conversation about feelings, about how they control you with the feelings. And that's what I'm saying. They didn't even know they was naked until they ate from the tree of life. So when you sitting there eat from it, then all of a sudden you done that, and now you look at each other, now you can see flesh. Now you can feel ashamed. Now they wasn't feeling nothing before that. They didn't feel nothing. They was in glory. They was great. Nothing was to be thought. It was of a sound mind. That's it. They didn't feel nothing. Moment they eat from the, oh man, now all of a sudden they feeling stuff. They feeling shame. They feeling guilt. They feeling, oh man, we go down the list. Every feeling you feel, they started feeling. I mean, how we don't understand that, fam? That's why it's a thing about not feeling nothing and just moving logically to get it done. Because the moment you start feeling, you see what it do. I just wanted to break that down because he is trying to break it down in a scientific way. And if he does that, they definitely never want to mention spiritual, talking about God, and then talking about flesh and how we operate with flesh.
This spark and this transience of energy that is beyond anything that anything on this planet is even capable of. We are truly, I believe, like gods in this physical mortal body, and the great trick is to make us believe that we're not. Right. I think that's the most difficult thing for people to wrap their heads around, is the idea that we're extremely important. And when I mean important, I mean that it may be so important what happens to us. And this isn't an egotistical thing just because we're humans. Sure. But I really believe that everything I've studied, everything that I've looked at, says that even though the universe is vast, and the Fermi paradox, things like that, and the Drake equation explain that there are likely civilizations all throughout. Space is vast, and solar systems are vast, and what we are and what we're part of may be so much more important than we understand. Even though the Earth is just this blue speck in the middle of an endless cosmic ocean, we may be the great experiment that may be determining the entire future of consciousness in the multiverse, because we don't know how extensive this experiment is. And what I mean by experiment, When you read cuneiform tablets and a lot of other ancient texts, they specifically talk about how these fallen angel beings came here and they essentially disrupted this reality. And they wanted to create these beings that were in their image, just like Genesis says, created in their image. And we were created here to essentially be workers in this physical reality.
Right.
But the problem was that we became way more advanced than we were supposed to because of certain conflicts that arose with these creator gods. And it's the common story that everyone should know that's inherent now, is that one of these creator gods, or multiple ones of them, fell in love with their creation. And I'm not talking about the prime creator of everything.
Right.
This throughout every spiral and every mathematical calculation. But free will exists everywhere. And the idea behind free will is that you can do anything you want as long as you let that being make its own choices. And so the idea is that we are beings that have been tricked into believing that we're not important. Whereas where we might actually be so important that it may be a complete factor in how this entire experiment in consciousness in a physical body of like a godlike state turns out. So think about this for a minute. What would happen if we destroyed ourselves? Just destroyed ourselves right now? We don't know. That's the scary thing that I want people to understand. We may be so critical to this story and what we turn into, what we become in the future, that some have even surmised, and I'm gonna stretch this because people want me to stretch sometimes, and I will. I'm not afraid to. Okay.
Oh, don't worry, I got something coming for you when you're done.
Is that we may actually be beings, physical beings here that become something great in the future.
Right.
I mean, something so significant that what we are in the future may already exist now. And they may have come back to try to make sure that this goes the way it should. Right. Because if it doesn't, those who I believe, some of those who are here trying to help things right now, they may not exist if we destroy ourselves.
That's awesome, Matt. So keep going. No, keep going.
So we don't fully know how important we are. But every indication that I've come up with after looking at all of this is that we may literally be the keys to everything. And why do I say that? Look at all the interest that's been played up on our story and all throughout history. I called my last book The Stage of Time because it truly seems like this is a great stage where we're being monitored and watched and influenced by all around us. It really may be like a giant cosmic reality show to sit back, but not always sitting back, right? And be watching this and be like, how do these gods in mortal physical bodies, do they ever reach their divinity or do they destroy themselves? Let's sit back and watch it. But then others are like, no. We can't allow them to reach that state. That's going to destroy our story. So we'll influence them to make sure they don't reach that state. I truly believe that just like religion.
And what he is saying, hit that like button, double tap that screen. What he is saying is what is being said in the book Masonic Creed, written by J.D. Rockefeller. Let me say that again. What he just said is what is being said in the book Masonic Creed, written by J.D. Rockefeller, about not letting us know who we really are, not enhancing us with the truth about who we are, about why we should know who we are. And coming from his state and everything that comes back from the biblical terms of us not knowing the fact that we are one and that we all have the blood of Jesus flowing upon us, player. Because of the fact that him dying on the cross for all of us, that connects us all. So that'll be a big reason why they'll be like, nah, we can't have that, because you got to understand something. These people can't be redeemed. These people can't be saved. They through. So the fact that they through and they can't be redeemed, they have to walk around and talk like this and talk about things like this and make up distractions of saying that, hey, we are something else and we come from something else. And I believe that if we all really knew our true meaning and purpose, we would be going through, or we wouldn't be suffering. That's what that is saying. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. Let's go.
As mentioned, there's a great war in heaven. There's a great war in the dimensions over how this story turns out. Beautiful. And right now, us talking about this and bringing all this lost wisdom back that the ancients were trying to tell us, the significance that what we really are and the choices we make every day in life may truly ripple out to aspects that we can't understand. And so I like to bring it back so that we understand how important we are in the decisions we're making. Because I think if people had that kind of mindset, that what they do matters and that they could become anything they want and potentially literally impact the entire story of humanity, it changes your daily activities and how you want to, what you want to aspire to in the future. And so I really truly feel like that there's a great battle here in our reality that we can't understand or see because we have such a very limited perception of what exists out beyond us.
See, when he talk about that battle, that great battle, that great battle, that great battle, even knowing that he knows or has heard that great battle, knowing that that's spiritual warfare, knowing that that's a battle that was spoken about God talking about how he's going to let his son come bruise the head of the snake. These prophecies that's already been spoken of. See, these people heard about it, know about it, man. Let's not play that. But see, the deception and how he's talking is him speaking about us being more than what we are, but he's not speaking about us being anything that got to do with Jesus. He's saying everything else about we more than something, or something's going on with us, and if we knew what it was, we could really be doing something. This is the great battle of it, but he ain't saying nothing about the power in the one who saved you. That's the point. So as he keeps talking about all these things he's read, he is still coming up with a narrative for truth. He is still fighting for something to piece together for truth. He is still not hearing, and he is still not being fulfilled because it is all empty words. Now, let me say this about the scientists. See, scientists know what is going on when we talk about portals. They know what's going on when we're talking about demons and dimensions. They know what's going on. But what I want you to know, because they do know, you have to listen to them always never mention Jesus. And that's how you know where the deception comes in. Because the fact that we know they know, Lori, that's where they start to tweak how they know it. Because when they start to talk how he's talking, that they know, he starts saying stuff like, hey, you know what I think is, you know, we might be the key to something to unlock something. You ain't saying nothing about, oh, we might be the Jesus, the blood that is going to save our life eternally and get us to the key to unlock heaven so we there forever. You don't get what I'm saying that, though. You just heard him like, hey, I think that we special. I think we special. I think we might have something to do with a puzzle. I think that we the last of the equation. I think we the one that got the password to get into the secret door. I think we the key to open up the lock. What? That's how they talk. That's how preachers, that's how scientists talk. That's how the theorists talk. That's how the people that don't believe in the Messiah, that's how people that don't believe in the Redeemer talk. They want you to know you're important, but they don't want you to know why. Ooh-wee. Want you to know you're important because we need to take your life. We need to get rid of you. We want you to know how important you is. You so important, you don't need to be here. What? Make it make sense. You so important that you need to die? You don't need to be. Something ain't right. Because why y'all trying to take my life? Why you trying to come against me? Why you trying to, huh? Why you got to seek whom you may devour every day? Why you trying to kill me? Why you trying to be evil against me why you want my soul? What? That means I'm more important than I think. That means I mean something more than I know. That means I'm worth more than I thought. Somebody tell somebody I'm worth more than I thought. Woo! Somebody tell somebody I'm worth more than I type it. Somebody tell somebody I'm worth more than I thought. They want you to know you're worth more than you thought, so we want to take your life. Because if we want to take your life, if he want to take your life, you got to know you're worth something more. Why would there be demons? Why would there be people? Why would there be an entity that wants your life every day to not be here? You better start putting it together that you're worth more than you thought. You better start putting it together that you mean more than you think. Type it in. I mean more than I think. I'm worth more than I thought, and I mean more than I think. I'm worth more than I thought, and I mean more than I think. Type it in. I'm worth more than I thought, and I mean more than I think. I'm worth more than I thought, and I mean more than I think. I'm worth more than I thought. And I mean more than I think. You understand me? You better understand that. There's power in the tongue. And we'll never find ourselves in a situation like this where we're not understanding that we make up for life. We make up to be redeemed. We make up the blood. We make up while we're here. We're more than what we've never been and what we don't think we are. Hit that like button, double tap that screen, Mama K in the building. Tell somebody right now, I'm worth more than I think. We trying to wake them up tonight, Mama K. We trying to wake them up tonight. We trying to wake them up, Lord. We got to wake them up, Lord. We got to wake them up. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. We cooking.
We only have this very, very narrow viewpoint of the 7 colors of visible light spectrum, but we just can't see anything that's going on around us. And so it's very easy to fall into that deception that we are just an animal fighting amongst one another.
Matt, that was so beautiful. I lost my train of thought, but I wanted to say what you basically just said was, the great Pierre Sabak in his 2 books, Holographic Culture and The Murder of Reality, he talks about exactly what you just said. This is a grand experiment, and the beings that are way higher dimensional than us, the Anunnaki, maybe even others, are literally allowing us to play this emergent systems game.
Exactly.
And so if we, again, choose, right, because we're all, as you said, we have free will, we have the ability to choose resonance or dissonance. If enough of us choose resonance, the golden age will commence forth, and they, meaning the dark forces, whatever you want to call them, the death half of the wave, the left-hand path, they will stop messing with us. They will stop creating this, incoherence and allow us to become who you said, Matt, which we ultimately are destined likely to become. Billy, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I believe that we live in a universe where entropy rules. Everything moves from an ordered state to a disordered state, and that you can see that in financial systems. You can see that in your avatar body. You can see that in anything that's man-made. Everything moves from an ordered state to a disordered state, and over time, the same thing happens as we go through this Yuga cycle. And so now that we're gone through a huge amount of chaos and we're coming towards this crescendo of this chaos to move back into this organized state again. So we're going to recoalesce in this organized form and move up into that golden age. And like you said earlier, all the things necessary to have a golden age are already here right now on this planet.
Right. They are.
We have the technology. We got 3D printing. We have stem cells. We have, the ability to re-roll limbs. We have the capability, if you have a broken or severed spine, we can transmit the frequency from your brain to a receiver on the other end of the spine and make the leg walk again. Yep. You don't even need to put the nerves back together anymore. We can stop Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We can cure cancer. We have all these things here. There's a lot of us being suppressed. We've got the 0 point. We're moving forward at a drip by drip pace with these cars and vehicles still using combustion engine / electricity, right. Which electric cars still use gas because they're going to the power station to get the electricity, which is running off fuel. They got us running in circles, man. But everything is here. So all it takes is for enough resonance. Just like if you put a wine glass on the table and you sing at it and you match the resonant frequency of the atomic structure of that wine glass, it's going to explode. Beautiful. The same thing is happening with our consciousness. Our consciousness is sending out waves of light. Those light waves will actually leave your skull. Every thought you think creates an electromagnetic wave. Those are actually waves of light. Like Matt said, we can't see because we only see 1% of the spectrum. Right. But those waves are going out, and those waves carry what? Frequency. Mm-hmm. So when enough of us get on that same resonant frequency, that same thought conscious frequency, we're going to shatter this illusion. And once the illusion is shattered, we're going to run right into that golden age. And what I'd like to see this time, because nowhere have I ever read, I read over 1,000 scriptures, texts, cylinder skulls, papyruses.
That man said he read over 1,000 scriptures, texts, periscopes, papyruses. He's gonna keep.
And all these, cylinder scrolls, everything. And I've never seen where it said you have to start over again. Right. No, nowhere does it say that. So why can't we now maybe going in with knowledge this time? How can we put together a plan to sustain the golden age and not go back in this time loop again? That's the ultimate goal.
Billy, I want you to go, you just said so much, and you and I were talking off air, and I want you to relate what you said to me off air.
Shout out to Moving Forward in the building said, do you believe what he says? No, because let me say this, and I was just going to address what he's saying, because even him saying what he believes or what he thinks, he's not even ready to do. He's giving you a bunch of million different scenarios again, and then trying to come up with something saying, hey, if we can do this, or if it's realms or dimensions, then we should be able to time travel. Flat out. But then he was like, well, if these type of people did it, then we should be able to do it. But yet we're mankind and we have no powers, nor are we descendants from Nephilim. So you got to listen to him, man, because he will start running his mouth about, if this happened and this existed, then why we can't. And if we can, then we must have not tapped into doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, if we was, then we should be saying we did. Rereading about other people that did this, not us. But yet he's just talking about the spiritual war, the spiritual realm. And how to tap into spiritual realms and be able to operate at this magnitude. And I'm saying that even when he's talking, it's all theory and something that he is not even going to actually execute. And I think that's the big deal, fam. Because it can become false teachings real fast. Because it's your opinion of how you think you would go about things. And I think that's the biggest difference, because he starts to really go on and on about it.
On the show, because it's so important, and you just said it.
Yeah.
The people right now in dissonance, right? The lower chakras, the red, the anxiety, the self-hatred, the apathy, it's not my fault, no personal accountability. Describe to me what you told me. What is actually happening to them as this light that you just talked about, as this cosmic spiritual energy is blasting the planet, as Gerald used to say, from the Oort cloud? Why are they screaming and fighting and shrill? And you see them and you're like, my God, they look like they have demonic entity attachments. What is happening to them?
Well, what people have to understand is the human body is the most advanced technology that we know of, not only on the planet, but that we know of from our perspective in the universe.
Right.
There's nothing more advanced than the human avatar body, period. We just haven't found it yet. There probably are beings out there more advanced than us with their avatar bodies, but from our perspective, what we can claim that we know, this is super advanced. But why does DNA store information? DNA stores information from computers because it actually works together. It's compatible, which means that if we were compatible with digital bits of information, then our body needs to get updates just like your cell phone, okay? Now, what's happening is, as we are on this arm of this galactic ring, as we orbit the galactic equator, the galaxy itself is very thick, even though it looks like a thin disk, it's very thick. And our solar system undulates up and down this galactic arm. Now, we come to a point right now where we are literally at the perfect line of the galactic equator, shooting straight through to the galactic center, which is streaming all these high charged particles, cosmic rays and everything, all these energetic particles directly at us, directly interacting with our DNA and modifying and changing us, giving us updates. However, just like your cell phone, if you put or your computer, you keep getting these updates. They keep telling you, you need to press this restart button so that you can actually install the updates. We're all getting them, you know? Or we're getting them there, but people like us, we're clicking the restart button and we're taking the download, and then we're getting the restart and we're coming up with a newer advanced operating system. A lot of people are still not having put in the first update. They're 30 updates behind us.
That's absolutely beautiful.
And that's what you see on the streets and on the TV and all the clashing and the animalistic, barbaric behavior. Their updates they're way out of date, man. They have 40, 50 updates. They haven't even pressed the one button yet. That's the problem.
Or is relegated to ancient scrolls, they're sorely mistaken. Not to mention probably a bore at dinner parties. Indeed, mythology is as relevant as ever, going so far as to bleed into the realm of conspiracy theories and shadowy figures. Take the Rothschilds, a household name so enigmatic that they're practically mythological themselves. But this banking dynasty didn't just spring out of thin air. It was orchestrated by Meyer Rothschild, a man so ahead of his time that if he were a clock, he'd be set a century forward. 5 sons, 5 cities, 5 banks. This was the masterstroke that birthed a financial empire that is as pervasive today as it was back in the 18th century. But enough with the basic history that you probably already know. In today's
Anunnaki actually are not gone. They're still here.
I think that the sons of God, the Elohim, Anunnaki, I don't care what name you give them, they are still here.
Situations that happened in the past reappearing on our timeline and happening over and over again.
It would not surprise me if those Yetis, Bigfoot creatures, are the original experiments of the Anunnaki gods.
Think about this for a minute. If your God is all-knowing, omniscient, omnipotent, all-loving, never changing, and all these terminologies that they like to tell you, and you understand that as to be a supposed fact, never question it. But then at the same time, you can be, quote unquote, cast into a lake of fire for all eternity for punishment and torment for sins that supposedly, according to that same book and text, you had committed before the foundation of the earth. In other words, you were born a heathen, you were born a sinner, you were born this and born that. You're told that you're this person and that you're that person and you're so evil, and then you're coming out of the womb as this evil entity before you even have a chance to form your very first thoughts, when in true reality, it's a big fear factor. And all you're doing is trying to save your own skin by following the rituals and hoping that in the end, it was accurate.
In the Bible, there are many things that are misunderstood and mistranslated into English that comes from what we call Hebrew. First of all, we need to understand that that which we refer to as Hebrew is in point of fact not Hebrew, but Canaanite, Phoenician Canaanite. The bloodline is from the ancient Middle East called the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians, their area, that area in which Phoenicia existed was called Cana, the land of Cana. So today we refer to the Canaanite, Phoenician Canaanite language as Hebrew. all you have to do is go to reference books and look up ancient Hebrew, and it will tell you ancient Hebrew is actually Phoenician Canaanite. And it develops and mutates and comes down through history until today we call it Hebrew. But Hebrew is actually a Phoenician language. And many of the concepts and ideas which are expressed in the Old Testament are not original to the Old Testament. It goes back to even further back into ancient history, so that many of the concepts and belief systems in Judaism and Christianity are very, very ancient. And I believe that the Bible is one of the most important books on the earth, because it's really telling you some really interesting things. But if you don't understand how to read the symbols, it's never going to dawn on you how this stuff works. I think the New Testament is probably the most important story in the whole world, but not as history, but as a metaphor, as an encoded message. But let me go back to this one subject that I've been very interested in for a long time, and that is, in the beginning of the Bible, Genesis 1:1 says, in the King James Bible, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But that's not what it says in the old ancient Hebrew or Phoenician language. That's not what it says in the original language. That's how it was translated from the English, in the King's English. Well, the King's English, the King James Version, was translated by the best translators that the king had at the time. And it was very well done. However, they know more about the language today than what they did then. And so there's a lot of imperfections in the King James Bible that could be misleading unless you understand what the words actually meant in the ancient world. And so when you read in the beginning, this is Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's not what it says in Hebrew. It says in the beginning of the creation, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Elohim is not the word God. El is a Phoenician Canaanite name or word for deity, El, E-L. We talked a little bit about that last week. Lohim is like adding an S onto an English word. You have C-A-R for car, or C-A-R-S, cars, more than one. So adding an S on the end to the end of most English words means it's plural, in the plural. Well, that's exactly what Elohim means. El is God, Lohim is plural. So the correct understanding should be read, the Hebrew read, in the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth, not God.
Let's start talking about the biblical text.
Wow.
First of all, we're talking about the civilization that lived in Mesopotamia. Now, Mesopotamia is an ancient region which used to, in ancient time, encompass part of Africa. Now, due to the modern era and the redrawing of boundaries.
Now, see, that really hit different. Hit that like button, double tap that screen. That really hit different, because that's what I meant, and that's what I mean by when I'm trying to get people to understand. All we can do is that.
First of all, we're talking about the civilization that lived in Mesopotamia. Now,
all we can do is literally read passage, read literature, go look it up, see what these words meant then, and what they mean in the biblical sense in reading the Bible now. The Ethiopian Bible, the Hebrew version, whatever. Because I just lost train of thought all of a sudden, crazy. But I'm saying it's just different, man, because you really needed to learn what words and what letters and what sayings meant. so you can really understand what we're reading, so we can receive what we're reading, truth or not. And for him to break down Elohim and how it says this in this Bible but doesn't in this Bible, either somebody's holding that out, didn't write it, and that's deep, man. That's like going to church and hearing everything but about Nephilim. That's like reading every book in the Bible or words, but you ain't read Genesis 6. Or what is it, Matthew 25, 24? I mean, like, it hits different when you start to read and understand meanings of what it means. And then you read that back to yourself and see what the real meaning is. Saying in the beginning there were gods. Instead of in the beginning God created. And it's sad because you can't knock a person for hearing that and then knowing what words meant by if you go look the word up. Oh man, this is diabolical right here. Tell you, let's go.
Mesopotamia is an ancient region which used to, in ancient time, encompass part of Africa. Now, due to the modern era and the redrawing of boundaries, you see where Africa starts, but Africa extended up into the Middle East in that time frame, and these people were part of the African continent. Over time, as Mesopotamia became Iraq and Iran and the Middle East, and there's a whole story behind that because we know that the Arabs invaded that region. They attacked, they killed a lot of people in order to subdue the land and subdue the area, including Egyptians. And this is not anything that I'm doing to agitate anybody, it's just a fact. They teach you this when you go to Egypt. I mean, the story is right there in Coptic Cairo. The Arabs came in and they slaughtered millions upon millions of Egyptians. And the rest who survived, they forced them to speak Arabic, which is why today most Egyptians have no clue how to speak Egyptian, and they also have no clue what their hieroglyphs actually say.
The rabbis will tell you, and the rabbinical reference works will tell you that what is being said in Genesis 1:2 and in 1:28, when man and woman are being created, is that God is recreating all over again.
Wow.
And so consequently, the Bible, the Old Testament, is a story for this dispensation. This time, the world is being recreated. Now, what happened a million years ago, 10,000 or 100,000 years ago, that's none of your business. For you right now, this is what you need to understand. And the bottom line is that we are not the first creatures on the earth, the first time man's been on the earth. We now know that man has been on the earth probably millions and millions of years, and that for us to think that mankind was created 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 years ago is ludicrous, because we know better than that. And so consequently, that's what the Bible is saying. God is saying, replenish the earth to Adam and Eve. Do it again. Who is God? Well, the scripture says, and this is a very difficult word to deal with, God, G-O-D, because that's a lot of baggage. What are you talking about when you talk about God? Well, God is dog spelled backwards, as I said. This is why churches have dogma in their teachings, because it goes back to Anubis, Anubis the dog star, Anubis the dog, the god of and the ancient Egyptian religion. But when you look at the word, and now I get back to what I was going to say to start with, that in Genesis 1:2, where it incorrectly says in the and the earth was without form and void. No, the earth became a waste and a desolation. The two Hebrew words that are being translated there is tohu and vohu. Pronunciation, it would be Toe-hyphen-who, tohu. That's not the way it's spelled in Hebrew, but that's the way it's pronounced. Toewho, tohu. Vohu would be Voewho, tohu, vohu, waste, desolation. There's only two places in the Bible where tohu vohu is used, and those two places, they're always used together. And there's only two places to start with. One is in Jeremiah, and one is in Genesis 1:2. And in the scripture in Jeremiah, Jeremiah says, I saw the earth in a vision, and the earth was tohu vohu, meaning the earth became, and my eyes, I saw the earth, and it became a waste and a desolation. Well, when did that happen? Well, according to the Jeremiah prophecy, it happened many, many, many thousands of years before. And the prophet Isaiah said God gave him a vision. And in the vision, he saw the earth and tohu vohu, which is the earth became in his eyes. It was beautiful. It was, and the scripture says that, Jeremiah says, and the earth was beautiful. Its animals, its birds, its civilizations were absolutely beautiful to see. And then tohu vohu, it became a waste and a desolation, meaning that the earth probably was a very beautiful place thousands and thousands of years ago, maybe 100,000 years ago. And Jeremiah was given the opportunity to see the way the earth was 30, 40, 50,000 years ago, with animals and a whole different beautiful world. And then something happened, some kind of a major catastrophe, tohu vohu. It became a waste and a desolation.
The Sumerian tablets. The oldest tablet recorded dates back to around 2300 BCE, but the story is likely much, much older. We're talking about tens of thousands of years old, because now we have found tablets that are much older than 2300 BCE, okay? It's polytheistic, multiple gods, has many recorded creation stories that are often incomplete because of broken tablets and such. But ironically, the parts that weren't broken make it into the Bible. Interesting. Then you have the Sumerian tradition, which includes the Great Flood story, Genesis. Ziusudra is rewarded with eternal life. The Sumerians wrote many debate stories called disputations, which mimic Cain and Abel's story. And you look at the book of Genesis, there's side-by-side comparison. You see the comparisons there. You see the slight remixing going on. You see that the text that made it into that part of Genesis was mostly just plagiarized text from ancient tablets, which then were slightly remixed in some cases, but ultimately come from ancient text. Very important stuff. Very, very important stuff. And so why is it important to know this? Because it's important to know and understand who you are and where you came from, how we got here, and what happened in the ancient past. Because until we find out what really happened in the ancient past, we can't plan for a better future, because the past is prologue. We're in a loop. This stuff keeps happening over and over and over again. We keep going through this vicious cycle of rise and fall of civilizations. We keep going through this vicious cycle of situations that happened in the past reappearing on our timeline and happening over and over again. See, if you go back in time to 2023 BCE, you'll find the same exact stuff we're going through now happening back then. Not necessarily with the technology level, but with the social issues. You'll find it. Every section, every era of time that you have in our current era, match and go back and study history for that previous area of BCE, you'll find the same stuff happening. It's like we're in a time loop. We keep doing it over and over and over and over again.
Now, I would believe that because I remember that movie on Netflix about Who Cloned Tyrone. If you've seen Who Cloned Tyrone on Netflix, press 1. If you've seen Who Cloned Tyrone on Netflix, press 1. I need to know if you understand that. If you've seen Who Cloned Tyrone, press 1. If you haven't, pull it up. Because in Who Cloned Tyrone, it was a time loop. And then Clone Tyrone was talking about black folk being in the hood, you know, what's going on in the hood every day, regular stuff, right? And then he would do all that and do it all over again the next day. Do this, do that, do it all over the next day. Okay, Theo. So, Lori, Theo, I want y'all to put that on your homework list. I want y'all to check that out. Who cloned Tyrone? You understand what I'm saying, fam? Very important, because that movie right there alone, it really hits the difference on the time loop. How they're using the hood, the churches, the stores to launder this, or you know, to keep people bound, to keep black folks stuck, struggling, alienated, poisonated, you know, just everything. So I really refer you all to check that out so you can see how the time loop and how the time is lapsing. And yet we're doing the same thing every day until we want to change. So that's why it's a big deal, fam. And really the way it's going about everything and how we're going about it, we gotta know that I believe that, yeah, we could be just waking up and just doing a time loop. We could be. As always, fam, you know what the level is and what it ain't and what it should be. As always, fam, I truly appreciate each and every one of y'all pulling up on your boy, man. I truly appreciate each and every one of y'all taking time out to get you something to eat, something to smoke, and something to drink. If that's what you do, fam, I truly appreciate each and every one of y'all support, your love, and care. I truly appreciate you. Double tap that screen, hitting that like button, double tapping that screen, subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the episode, and sharing this with the world. And of course, family, bam, never forget, you see the No Filters raffle. One woman, one man will win a No Filters classic t-shirt signed by your boy Dealatofficial, sponsored by Nene Love Savvy TV family. Tomorrow night, one woman, one man will be announced. Be ready, making sure you in the building with your boy Dealatofficial and my family here at No Filters. As always, make sure your door is locked, making sure everything is in line. And never forget that subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode. And what? Share this with the world. And of course, family, when you come in, get comfortable. Get you something to eat. Get you something to drink. Get you something to smoke if that's what you do. Because you know the title, fam. You in here with your boy Dilla T, my fam. And this is No Filters. Y'all have a good night. Be safe. God bless.